Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, it's never enough? You work late, you hustle every day, you tick off every box on your to-do list, and yet instead of feeling accomplished, you feel drained, unfulfilled, and even more behind than before. You tell yourself, just try harder. But what if that's the very thing holding you back? Today we're diving into a radically different idea. What if doing less actually gets you further? This isn't about being lazy, it's about aligning your efforts with what truly matters. Something the ancient Stoic philosophers mastered over 2,000 years ago. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And most of us, we're wasting our energy chasing goals that aren't even ours. In this video, we'll explore how Stoic wisdom can help you let go of the toxic pressure to constantly prove yourself, and how to replace it with a calm, focused power that leads to real, authentic success. If you're tired of burnout, of chasing shadows, and of trying too hard to meet expectations that never satisfy, stay with me. By the end of this video, you might just discover a better way forward. Part 1. The Achievement Trap. Why trying harder isn't always the answer. Let's be honest, most of us were taught from a young age that success comes from pushing ourselves to the limit. Work hard, grind harder, sacrifice everything, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be happy one day. I lived like that for years. I chased awards in school, then I climbed the ladder in my career. I pushed, achieved, burned out, then repeated the cycle all over again. Sound familiar? It's like being stuck on a treadmill that never stops. No matter how fast you run, you're not actually getting anywhere. And deep down you feel it. Is this really it? You may look successful on the outside, but inside, you're exhausted. Worse, you might not even know why you're doing all of this anymore. That's what I call the achievement trap. And it's one of the biggest lies we've been sold, that effort alone equals fulfillment. But here's the truth. Effort that's not aligned with purpose is just glorified burnout. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. Take Seneca, for example. He warned us about being busy for the sake of being busy. He said, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Translation: we guard our money like it's gold, but throw away our time and energy chasing things that don't matter. Think about it. How many times have you said yes to a project just to impress your boss, even though it drained you completely? Or stayed up late fixing one more thing in your business, hoping it'll finally be good enough? We're all guilty of this, not because we're weak, but because we've been conditioned to believe that more effort equals more value. And that's just not true. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine, let's call her Sarah, was working 60+ hours a week at a high-profile marketing agency. On paper, she had it all. A great salary, cool clients, fancy LinkedIn titles, but she was miserable. Constant migraines, panic attacks. She didn't even recognize herself anymore. One day, she finally stopped. She asked herself, why am I working so hard to live a life I don't even like? That was her wake-up call. She didn't quit everything overnight, but she started making small changes, saying no more often, prioritizing rest, rediscovering what actually mattered to her. Not her boss, not society, her. Fast forward 2 years, she's still doing marketing, but on her own terms. Less stress, more joy. She's actually achieving more now by doing less. That is the difference between forceful striving and aligned living, between what the Stoics would call fighting against nature and flowing with it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That applies to effort too. If it's not aligned with your truth, your nature, your purpose, then maybe you shouldn't be pushing so hard in the first place. Because sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is to stop trying so hard. Part 2. Busyness is not a badge of honor. Let's talk about something that almost all of us are guilty of. When someone asks, "How are you?" What's the most common answer these days? I'm busy. We say it almost like we're proud, like being overwhelmed is a status symbol, as if the busier we are, the more important we must be. But here's the truth. Busyness is not a badge of honor. It's often a warning sign. The Stoics understood this long before burnout became a buzzword. They didn't value a packed schedule. They valued clarity, calm, and purpose. Seneca called it out plainly. So much of life is wasted in meaningless activity and the pursuit of things that bring no peace. Let that sink in. We rush from task to task, juggling meetings, emails, social obligations, trying to do it all. And most of the time, we don't even stop to ask, why am I doing all this? Here's a hard truth. Much of what we call productivity is just distraction in disguise. We're staying busy so we don't have to face the discomfort of slowing down. Because when we pause, the real questions come up. Am I happy? Is this meaningful? Do I even like the direction I'm heading? Let me give you an example. I once coached a client, let's call him Kevin. Kevin was a startup founder, always in a rush. He prided himself on being the first one in, last one out kind of guy. His calendar was jam-packed. His Slack notifications never stopped. And yet, he was constantly exhausted, short-tempered, and secretly wondering if all this effort was even worth it. One day, we did a simple exercise. I asked him to write down everything he did in a week and rate each task on two things. 1, does it energize you? 2, does it move you toward your long-term purpose? Guess what? Nearly 60% of his time was spent on things he neither enjoyed nor found meaningful. That was his wake-up call. He started cutting out non-essential meetings, delegating tasks he didn't need to do, blocking out time for reflection, just 1 hour a week. And within a few months, his energy changed. Not only was he less reactive, but he was making better decisions. He stopped confusing movement with progress. That's the shift we need to make. Busyness is not the same as effectiveness. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if you seek tranquility, do less. Or more accurately, do what's essential and do it with intention. This is not about doing nothing. It's about doing less of what doesn't matter, so you can do more of what does. So here's your challenge for today. Take 5 minutes. Look at your to-do list, your calendar, even your habits. Ask yourself, which of these truly matters to me? Which ones am I doing just to appear busy or please others? Then start editing. Because cutting the unnecessary isn't quitting, it's reclaiming your time. And as the Stoics would say, time is the one thing you never get back. Part 3. Upstream versus downstream effort. Are you forcing or flowing? Let me ask you something real. Have you ever felt like you're pushing a giant boulder up a hill every single day? You wake up already tired. You grind, you force, you hustle, but no matter how hard you try, you're still stuck in place, or worse, sliding backward. That's what I call upstream effort, and it's exactly what the Stoics warned us about. Effort that goes against nature, against your values, against your truth. Imagine rowing a boat upstream. You're paddling with all your strength, but the current fights you every inch of the way. That's what upstream effort feels like. You're working hard, but you're not aligned. You're not flowing. Now compare that with downstream effort. Same boat, same paddle, but this time you're moving with the current. You're still putting in work, but it feels smoother. There's progress, there's clarity, there's peace. The Stoics believed in effort, but not in wasted effort. They taught that the highest form of action is one that's in harmony with your nature. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So here's the deal. Upstream effort is often about ego. It's about proving something to your parents, your co-workers, your social media followers. Downstream effort, on the other hand, is about purpose. It's doing the work that matches who you really are, not who you're pretending to be. Let me give you a real-life example. I once knew a guy, we'll call him David. David had a prestigious job in finance. On paper, he was crushing it. 6-figure income, high-rise apartment, business-class flights. But every morning he woke up with a knot in his stomach. He dreaded Mondays. He hated conference calls. He felt like he was pretending all the time. Deep down, David wanted to teach. He'd always loved mentoring interns and explaining complex ideas in simple ways. But he kept telling himself that won't pay the bills. So he pushed that desire away until he couldn't anymore. After a long inner struggle, David made a shift. He didn't quit overnight. He started small, teaching part-time at a local college. Eventually, he transitioned into it full-time. And guess what? He works less hours now. He earns less money, but he feels more alive than he ever did in finance, because he's no longer forcing his life upstream. He's flowing with it. That's what downstream effort looks like. Still showing up, still contributing, but with ease, with intention, and with peace. Here's a question you can ask yourself today. Am I forcing this or flowing with it? Whether it's a job, a relationship, a project, feel the energy behind it. If it drains you constantly, if it feels like swimming against the tsunami, maybe it's not the right river. Because when you're in the right current, effort feels energizing. You still work, but you're not at war with yourself. As the Stoics might say, nature doesn't rush, but everything still gets done. Part 4. Redefining success. What are you really chasing? Let's pause and ask one of the most important and most uncomfortable questions in life. What does success actually mean to you? Not what your parents told you. Not what society screams at you. Not what your Instagram feed suggests. You. What does your version of success look like? See, a lot of us are chasing a definition of success we never consciously chose. Big house, fancy car, six-figure salary, impressive title. That's the script most of us inherited. But the Stoics would tell you, if you don't define success for yourself, the world will define it for you, and you'll always feel behind. Here's what Seneca wrote. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. Powerful, right? You can have everything and still feel empty if it's not aligned with your values. That's why the Stoics didn't equate success with external achievements. They defined it as living with virtue, courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. In other words, doing the right thing in the right way for the right reasons. Let me give you a story to bring this home. A woman I know, let's call her Mia, spent years climbing the corporate ladder in a global tech company. She worked late nights, won awards, got promoted every other year. Her LinkedIn profile was glowing, but something felt off. She had no time for her kids. Her marriage was falling apart. She didn't even recognize herself in the mirror anymore. One night after a big product launch, she went home, poured herself a glass of wine, and just sat there. No emails, no meetings, just silence. And that silence hit her harder than any burnout ever had. That night, she wrote a question in her journal that changed her life. If I keep winning their game, will I lose mine? That was her turning point. She didn't quit everything the next day, but she started to shift. She restructured her schedule. She said no more often. She began volunteering in a cause she deeply cared about. Her income didn't double, her follower count didn't explode, but she felt successful for the first time in a very long time, because she redefined what success meant. Not accumulation, but alignment. Not applause, but authenticity. And that's the Stoic approach. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote in his journal, not for fame, but for clarity, if you seek tranquility, do less. Do only what's essential and do it in accordance with reason and nature. So here's your invitation. Take 5 minutes today and write down your definition of success. Not what looks good on a resume, but what feels right in your soul. Does it include peace of mind? Time with loved ones? Freedom, purpose, health? That's your compass. And when your definition of success comes from within, you stop overextending yourself trying to meet someone else's standards. Because here's the truth. You can achieve more when you're chasing less, if what you're chasing actually matters. Part 5. Inner work. Know yourself before you burn out. So now that you've redefined success on your terms, how do you actually stay aligned with it? How do you resist the pressure to slip back into old habits? Overworking, overthinking, overdoing. That's where the real work begins. Not the to-do list, not the hustle, but the inner work. The Stoics were all about it. They believed that the quality of your outer life begins with the clarity of your inner world. As Epictetus said, know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly. Let's unpack what that means. Most of us live on autopilot. We chase goals, follow trends, say yes to things that don't light us up because we've never really paused to ask, what do I actually value? Not in a vague, motivational poster kind of way, but in a deep, personal, gut-level kind of way. So here's your first step. Identify your core values. Is it freedom, creativity, peace, adventure, honesty, spirituality? If you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for everything. And when you're unclear on your values, your energy gets scattered. Let me give you an example. A coaching client of mine, let's call her Julia, came to me on the verge of quitting her job. She said, I feel drained all the time, but I don't even know why. So we dug deeper. Turns out Julia deeply valued autonomy and meaningful contribution, but her job was micromanaged and transactional. No wonder she felt off. She wasn't failing, she was just out of alignment. Once she got clear on her values, she started making subtle shifts. She blocked quiet solo time in her schedule. She pitched a purpose-driven project that excited her, and eventually, she began exploring a more values-aligned career path. Her energy changed, not because her life got easier, but because her actions started to match her soul. That's inner work. And here's the second part. Get clear on how you want to feel every day. This might sound soft, but it's actually powerful. When you know how you want to feel, calm, focused, purposeful, you stop chasing things that give you the opposite. Stoic wisdom supports this too. They didn't aim for excitement or chaos. They aimed for tranquility, clarity, inner stability. As Seneca put it, the greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. So take a moment and ask yourself, what do I want to feel more of each day? What drains me and what fills me? Now connect the dots. What actions, people, or projects align with those feelings? What habits or commitments constantly pull you away? The more aligned your values and your emotions are with your daily actions, the less effort things will take. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop fighting yourself. This is what the Stoics practiced in silence every morning and reflected on every night, because they knew a calm mind leads to clear action, and clear action leads to right results. So if you've been trying hard but feeling stuck, maybe it's time to stop pushing outward and start listening inward. That's where the real shift begins. Part 6. Living authentically. Choosing your path, not the default one. So you've done the inner work. You've clarified your values. You've connected with how you want to feel each day. Now comes the hard part, actually living it. This is where many people get stuck. They know what matters to them, but living that truth, it feels risky, it feels different, and sometimes it feels like you're going against the grain. That's because you are. Authenticity often means choosing your path, even when it's not the one everyone else expects you to take. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He wasn't talking about being polite, he was talking about radical integrity, living in alignment with what is true, no matter the cost. Let me tell you a real story. A friend of mine, let's call her Lena, was working at a top university. To the outside world, she was living the dream. Respected by her peers, admired by students, great benefits, prestigious title. But inside, she was shrinking. The environment didn't reflect her values anymore. She felt disconnected, drained, out of sync with herself. She told me, "I used to feel proud of what I did. Now I just feel numb." So she made a choice that shocked her colleagues and family. She walked away, left the position, packed up, moved across the world, and started a simpler, slower life that finally felt like her. Was it easy? No. People called her irresponsible. She questioned herself, she felt fear, but she also felt free. That's the paradox of authentic choices. They're uncomfortable at first, but liberating in the long run. Because when you're not living your truth, no amount of external success will satisfy you. The Stoics believed that living according to your values is the highest form of strength, not brute force, not social approval, but the ability to live with yourself at the end of the day and say, I did what was right, not what was easy. So here's a question for you. Is the life I'm living a reflection of my values or someone else's? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, good. That's where growth begins. Start small. You don't have to move across the world or quit your job tomorrow, but maybe it's time to say no to a project that doesn't align. Speak up when you've been silent. Stop pretending to enjoy things that drain you. Reconnect with something you let go of just to fit in. Because when your actions reflect your truth, life doesn't just get lighter, it gets clearer. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop comparing yourself. You stop running from your own reflection. That's what the Stoics called freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom to be yourself without apology. And that kind of freedom, it's worth everything. Part 7. Flow, synchronicity, and inner peace. Signs you're on the right path. So by now you've done the reflection, identified your values, and started walking your authentic path. But how do you know if you're really in alignment? What are the signs that you've shifted from forcing life to flowing with it? Good question. The Stoics believed that while we can't control everything, we can pay attention to how life responds when we're on the right track. And one of the biggest clues? Something modern psychology calls flow. You've probably felt it before. It's that feeling when you're so engaged in something, writing, painting, teaching, solving a problem, you lose track of time. You're not distracted. You're not doubting yourself. You're just present. That's flow. The Stoics didn't use the word flow, but they described a similar experience. Living in accordance with nature, with your true role and rhythm. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "No one tires of receiving what is useful. Nature does not rush, yet all is accomplished." So here's a real-world example. One of my clients, we'll call him Daniel, was a software engineer who had been stuck in burnout for years. He kept pushing for promotions, working weekends, saying yes to everything, but he felt robotic, disconnected. Eventually, he reevaluated his values and realized he loved building things that help people, not just scaling code for profit. He pitched a small side project that focused on accessibility tools for the visually impaired. His manager approved it as an experiment. Suddenly, he was in flow, working late but not tired, solving problems with joy. No pressure, no proving, just purpose. That's what happens when your effort moves downstream. You're still working hard, but it doesn't feel like it. And sometimes, when you're truly aligned, life meets you halfway. This is what some call synchronicity, the right people, opportunities, or ideas showing up just when you need them. It's not magic, it's momentum built from clarity. The Stoics believed that when we live in harmony with our highest values, the world becomes a little clearer. Not easier, but more meaningful. And even when challenges come, and they will, you face them differently, because now you're not just reacting, you're responding from a grounded place. So how do you stay in this zone? Here are 3 practical checkpoints. 1. Flow. Are there moments when time disappears and you feel fully alive? 2. Ease. Not laziness, but a sense of effort that feels natural, not forced. Number 3. Inner peace. You may still be tired after a long day, but your spirit isn't exhausted. If you're noticing these, chances are you're finally moving with the current of your life. But if you're not feeling them, don't panic. Just pause. Ask yourself, what small shift could bring me closer to alignment today? Because sometimes one honest conversation, one courageous no, or 1 hour of silence can change everything. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And when you stop trying so hard to control it all, you open the door for something better to unfold. Not just success, but meaning. Not just progress, but peace. So if there's one message I hope you'll take away from this video, it's this. You don't need to burn out to prove your worth. You don't need to chase a version of success that doesn't belong to you, and you definitely don't need to try so hard just to feel enough. Because when you start aligning your effort with your values, your truth, and your purpose, life gets lighter. You can still achieve, you can still grow, but you'll do it without losing yourself along the way. The Stoics didn't tell us to give up. They simply showed us a wiser path, one where clarity matters more than chaos, and inner peace matters more than outward praise. So maybe the real challenge isn't to do more, it's to do less, but better, more intentionally, more truthfully, more in flow with who you really are. If this video resonated with you, I just want to say thank you for watching all the way through. It means a lot, especially in a world that's always rushing. And if you're ready to keep exploring topics like this, Stoicism, mindful living, meaningful success, I'd love to have you stick around. Feel free to like this video if it brought you value. Subscribe for more content that supports your growth, not just your grind. And if anything in this video spoke to you or challenged you in a new way, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. Until next time, remember, you don't need to push so hard to prove something. You just need to show up honestly, fully, and aligned. Take care of yourself, and keep walking the path that feels right, not just the one that looks right. See you in the next one.